About 8 months ago, I adopted a 12-year-old toy poodle and named her Cupcake. If you've seen any of my past videos, you know this is the best decision I've made in a long time.
One very, very shiny silver lining I have seen to the lockdown situation that we have found ourselves in is it seems like a lot of people are fostering and or adopting dogs right now. From my neighbors to friends to even celebrities, I'm seeing a lot of people adopting and fostering dogs. One of the shelters that's actually local to me adopted out every single one of their dogs a few weeks ago. So if you are thinking of fostering or adopting a dog, here are some of the pros and cons. I'll start with the pros. Don't get me wrong, I love living alone, but sometimes it can get lonely. Now, since getting Cupcake, I feel like I have a roommate. I mean, she's a roommate that doesn't help me with any chores and actually creates more chores for me, but a roommate nonetheless. No, with all seriousness, it does make you a little bit less lonely in your own house or apartment. She's also someone that I can talk to, and part of me thinks that I'm insane for having full-on one-way conversations with my dog, and the other part of me knows that all of you that have dogs and are watching this do the exact same thing. So another way she helps with the idea of loneliness is meeting other people. So I guess this is number 1B. She's a total chick magnet or dude magnet. Just people magnet. I swear before we were all told to treat other people like they had leprosy, I was meeting someone new in my neighborhood every other day. I never really understood people that knew all of their neighbors until I got Cupcake. And now I'm out walking her 3 times a day. In the video that I made on tips for surviving self-quarantine, I mentioned how easy it can be to spend the entire day inside without even realizing it. With a dog, that is impossible unless you want to be cleaning up all day. I take Cupcake on at least 15-minute walks at least 3 times a day. So I'm getting 45 minutes of added exercise every day that I didn't have before I got her. While we're talking about dogs needing to be walked, it is pretty important to stay on a relatively strict schedule with the times that you're walking them throughout the day to avoid and prevent accidents. Dogs do really, really well with structure. So walking them at the same times every day, feeding them at the same times every day, and even going to bed and waking up at the same times every day is super great for dogs. And when you've created that structure for your dog, you inherently adapt that structure for yourself because you're the one taking care of them. So dogs do a really great job of creating some sort of structure in your life when you may be lacking it or need it. The last pro or positive aspect I wanted to go over of adopting a dog isn't in comparison to not adopting a dog. It's in comparison to purchasing a dog and why you should adopt versus purchase. Most dogs that are being purchased are bare minimum $1,000. They can go all the way up to $4,000. I've even seen dogs being sold for $10,000. It can get quite pricey. When you're adopting a dog, it's not anything like that. A lot of shelters will waive adoption fees once the dogs reach a certain age. Cupcake is a senior dog, so all of her adoption fees were waived. I think the only things that I had to pay for with this little one was some fees for her shots, but because she was older, they waived all the adoption fees. And I know that if you adopt a dog that is younger, like a puppy to maybe 3 years old, they're never that expensive. I've never seen an adoption fee for a dog over $200. And when we're comparing $200 to $4,000, that's a pretty big difference in my opinion. So they're much, much cheaper to adopt dogs. There are so many dogs that need to be adopted. I know that a lot of the people that watch my videos are from Florida because I live in Florida. And Florida is actually the 3rd state only preceded by California and Texas in the amount of dogs that are put down every year due to overcrowding and overpopulation of homeless and stray dogs. So it's great to adopt for multiple reasons, especially if you live in one of those 3 states. The last pro that we went over was the cost, and we were comparing adopting versus purchasing a dog. Well, the first con that I want to go over is cost, comparing between adopting and just not adopting at all. So I spend roughly $80 a month on Cupcake between her food and getting her groomed. She's a poodle, so she does have to get groomed at least once a month. Not all dogs need that, especially pit bulls and labs, and short-haired dogs really don't need to be groomed that often. And I spend quite a bit of money on her food. She's so small. She weighs 7 pounds, and I'm spending $40 a month minimum on her food, and that's because she is very old and has a lot of health issues, and we will get to that later on. Financially, think about adopting a dog as adding another bill onto your expenses. I probably spend about $40 to $80 a month on my gas, my electricity, my cable. Each of those falls somewhere between 40 and 80, like a dog would. So if you can take on that extra expense, then you're probably good to take on a dog. And if you can't, maybe look at a hamster because they're a lot cheaper. That great structure I mentioned earlier that you adjust to and adapt to when getting a dog also comes with a level of responsibility to stick to that structure. Before I got Cupcake, I could go to work, then go out with some friends, hang out, and go home when I felt like it, or I could go to work and go straight to the gym, straight to yoga, and then go home, like I said, whenever I felt like it. Now that I've got Cupcake, that's not an option anymore. I essentially don't have a social life now that I've got Cupcake. I'm kidding. I never had a social life.
Oh my god, I'm so edgy and relatable because I use self-deprecating humor.
No, what I'm really talking about with this, the dog does require a little bit of babysitting. You do have to adjust your schedule to stick to theirs a little bit more. A lot of times when you adopt a dog, you don't know where they spent the first part of their life. And sometimes that can be a really rough story. And sometimes it's not. I don't think, hey Cupcake, come on, show your face. I don't think Cupcake had a rough first part of her life because she's just too kind. But a lot of dogs will be aggressive or not potty trained because their last owner didn't potty train them. There's all these different things you have to consider when you don't know where your dog came from, for lack of a better way of putting it. While I don't believe Cupcake was mistreated the first 10 or 12 years of her life, she has some serious stomach problems. So I don't know if she was always fed the right thing or if that was just who she was gonna be, I don't know. Her health issues are probably the biggest issue that we have together. Now, I can't speak to every dog being adopted having health issues. I did adopt a senior dog, as I mentioned, so she's probably bound to come with a few health problems. She had 7 of her 13 teeth left, originally starting with 44, pulled the day before I adopted her. So we just give her wet food now, and she has some serious stomach problems. We got rid of the going to the bathroom problem by putting her on prescription food. That's why her food is a little bit more expensive than a normal toy poodle's food. I don't think you'd spend $40 a month on a toy poodle's food. We solved a lot of the stomach problems with that food. Not all of them. We still struggle with a little bit of throwing up daily, but we've done what we can. She's an old lady, I don't blame her. That's honestly all of the cons I've experienced with adopting a dog. Come here. For me, I wouldn't trade a single one of those cons for Cupcake. I love her. This dog changed my life. And like I said, I adopted a senior dog, so I have a little bit more issues than you normally would. She can literally throw up every single day in the house, and I still wouldn't give her up. I mean, she does do that, and I don't want to give her up, so I'm speaking from an authentic place here. Hopefully you get out there and adopt a dog if you've been considering it. We appreciate your support. Go ahead and like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you next time. Thanks!